territory where Carlos Bulosan once lived to tell the story of the rain, sweat, glory of Mike Jackson men who fight the destination we were destined to end. Left the writing on the wall in the halls of the Nippon Khan. Others transformed, majority Decepticons, but my conception of the...
All right, we're here. My brain is overloaded from all the Seattle sports news. I had a busy week at work. I thought Junior Day was going to be a big deal, but then every single team in Seattle had to do something significant. And one of the best shows on ESPN announced that it was being canceled.
Yeah. Around the Horn. I think it's May 23rd or March 23rd is their last one.
Yeah.
It's coming up.
Do you like Around the Horn more than PTI? Did you ever have time to watch those?
Oh, yeah. These are both like my college era, Kev, like when they started, right? Definitely PTI. We watched in college all the time. It was a great, like, you're done with class, you know, before you do your homework or go out or whatever you're doing that night. You know, we would have PTI on Sports Center, and then later became Around the Horn, PTI Sports Center. My summers as a teacher, right? A lot of Around the Horn. I love the idea of having guests on. Everybody's spitballing questions. You know, I think for me, the big bummer about it is less about Around the Horn itself, even though I think it's a solid ESPN show, and more just like what's happening to, unfortunately,
Are we complicit?
video.
Are we complicit in this?
No, I think podcasts are replacing these things, but I think ESPN is sort of to blame. Like they're just dumbing down their content, right?
Yeah.
It's more, no offense, not that he's ever going to hear it, but Stephen A. Smith yelling and you know, he's debating like Kai Cenat, who's a YouTuber, instead of an actual sports writer.
Yeah.
I mean, back in the day, Kev, they used to have like it was called the Sports Writers on Sunday morning, and it was like Bob Ryan from the Boston Globe and these real sports writers, these old heads and women who would like come on and just say like, we're gonna debate, you know, good old fashioned sports debate. So that's what we kind of do every week here. I think we entertain and we provide information to people, hopefully.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we're gonna do, you know, we're gonna honor Around the Horn. We're like, how do we do it on a Zoom? We could throw everybody in a room together, but it'd be chaotic. And there's so much news, to your point. So our format is going to be, the nickname is Starting Five. So we are going to have 5 questions for our guest, 4 questions for Kev, 3 questions for another guest, 2 questions for me, 1 question for another guest. So that's how we're going to go. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Our first one we're going to have is 5 questions about probably the biggest news in Seattle right now, which is, it was going to be about Geno Smith. Moving on. We were going to talk to each other. What happens? And then boom, this morning before we were going to record, Sam Darnold's a Seahawk.
And you forgot, I mean, DK Metcalf too.
And DK Metcalf's gone. We have so many things and we're not going to be able to get to all of them, but we did find someone smarter than us, more professional than us, to talk about Sam Darnold. And so we're going to have a guest from Locked On Vikings, a former college classmate of Kevin's, Luke Braun, is going to join us.
All right, let's start Around the Horn. We got 5 questions for a very special guest here with us, Luke Braun of Locked On Vikings podcast. He does daily pods about the Minnesota Vikings, but more importantly, me and Luke go back all the way back to the Loyola Marymount University days. He knows how great the storied basketball program is.
Oh yeah, LMUUU.
Yeah.
Except for the years we were there.
Yes, except for the years we were there.
We need to talk about that.
We have a Vikings podcaster, but you know, we were talking about LMU. It always comes up, Brian. So
it always comes up.
This is
well, I went to Santa Clara, so the WCC is strong. We'll transition to the first question.
This is why we're having Luke on, because yesterday I texted him and I said, if the Seahawks sign Sam Darnold, can we have you on? And he responded immediately and said, absolutely.
Oh, for sure.
And awesome. We are like fortune tellers. And I'm pretty sure I said that before whoever reported, whatever insider said, this is their dude. So Sam Darnold signed with the Seahawks. Was it today?
Yeah.
Yeah. God, I'm losing track of time. 3 years, around 100 million, 55 million guaranteed. So we brought on Luke to give us the scoop. on USC grad Sam Darnold, former New Jersey Net.
No, New Jersey Net. That's basketball, but nice catch.
New Jersey,
Good.
New York Jets.
New York Jet.
There
New
you
York
go.
Jet.
It rhymes.
USC Trojan.
Yeah.
Before I do that, can I break some Seahawks news to you?
Yes.
It just
yes,
happened
please.
while you were doing that. Josh Jones,
Oh, okay.
1 year deal with the Seahawks, 4.75 mil.
Okay.
Nice.
Take it. Perfect.
Played for the Ravens before. That guy came out in what, 2020, I think?
I was
mean-
hoping you were going to say Will Freese, the guard from Indianapolis. That's
Unfortunately, he has to be a Viking because we
Oh.
signed Ryan Kelly. We got to keep those two guys together. So sorry to
okay.
be the bearer of
Nice.
bad news.
There you go. So tell us, what are
Yeah.
the strengths? Let's start positive. What are the strengths of Sam Darnold?
So the whole deal of Sam Darnold, look, the year that I witnessed Sam Darnold have, okay, is you have to forget the dude who saw ghosts in the Jets. You have to like think of him as a new guy. He had his little sabbatical, okay? He played with the Panthers. He had his little peaceful year off being a backup to Brock Purdy. That's a totally different mindset, different guy. And I think being with the 49ers it calmed him down a little bit. It gave him a sense of perspective. He could sit back. He could sort of take some time and reflect on everything that had happened with the Jets and the Panthers leading up to that, and the mistakes that he had made and the way that, like interrogating the way that he prepared, kind of look in the mirror, and the way that especially the way that he took it when something would go wrong. He would force the issue. Back then, he would really an interception would turn into 5 interceptions because he would start forcing. He would play hero ball, and realize, and then sitting behind Brock Purdy and watching him just like dish it out, play point guard, be like super kind of nothing, right? Just be like, I've got all these superstars and just sort of dish the ball out. And he was like, and then that went to the Super Bowl, and he was like, okay, this can work. I don't have to do everything myself all the time. Put him on a team with Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison and TJ Hawkinson, and then suddenly that can work out. So to more specifically answer your question, the deep balls were unreal. Mechanically, Sam Darnold is beautiful. Oh my God, it's so much fun just to watch him, the way that his hips like tighten, the dissociation between his shoulders and hips, which you kind of want if you're a golfer. You probably understand you want your hips to move, then your shoulders to move. Same deal with throwing the ball. It's the same biomechanics. And he did a really good job at having a short memory. He would have a bad play, and a lot of this was Kevin O'Connell in his ear saying, hey, chill out, next one, you're good, like trying to work him out of that. And there were a lot of moments where Darnold would throw a terrible interception. It ended up not being too many interceptions. There were some dropped ones, got a little lucky sometimes. But if he would throw a terrible interception, the next play, shot play. And it just instilled this idea in him. We believe in you, dude. You are everybody. You got Justin Jefferson on the bench going over to him and being like, hey, we're good. You're good. It's totally fine. 3 and out because the defense was insane. And get back out there and go throw something incredible. One of the best things that he did, one of the best games he had was in Seattle.
Oh, yeah.
And there is something weird about Sam Darnold in the rain. He did his pro day in the rain too, like famously killed it in the rain. I don't know what it is about that dude in the rain, but he went to like the rainiest place in the United States. So this has to work. But I think it's explosives. Like he's so good at finding that safety that stepped just one wrong way. It took one step the wrong way. Not a bust coverage, but just a safety that slightly wasn't perfectly efficient on the thing, and then finding a 65-yard bomb on that. And he is an unbelievably aggressive and greedy quarterback. And that can be a really good thing because the Vikings were an aggressive and greedy offense built to maximize that. But very crucially, they never gave up on him. He threw 3, should have had 5 interceptions in a game against the Jaguars. And the Vikings didn't score a touchdown in that game, even though they outgained the Jaguars like 3-1. And there was not a lick of a notion in Kevin O'Connell's mind to bench him the next week and try Nick Mullen. Like never, ever, ever, ever.
Yeah.
So I think once that pressure is off and it's like, dude, we 1,000,000% believe in you. Go take your risks. We'll eat the interceptions and we'll take the explosives on the other. Like once you're there, this dude will work out, and he is a much different guy than he was when he was on Monday Night Football seeing ghosts.
So we got you got our whole listenership very excited about Sam Darnold.
That's what I'm here for. I'm such a fan.
Brian,
I think it's great for you
next?
guys.
What's coming
Well,
next?
I
Number
want
two.
to point out to Luke, as a native Seattleite, that there's actual more annual rainfall in Houston than Seattle, but Houston does play.
They play indoors. They don't count.
Yeah, it's gray here all the time, Luke. It doesn't rain as much as people think.
Yeah.
But we'll take it. If it rains on game day and that helps Sam Darnold, I'm in. Actually, interesting you talk about explosives. This is related. I'm curious if what they'll ask Sam Darnold to do will be less explosive than they asked Geno Smith because of the trade of DK Metcalf and that Mike McDonald built a defense with John Schneider last year that was solid. I mean, I guess it's top 10. To me, maybe it's because I'm comparing to the Legion and Boom, but it's not, it's not elite, but it's good. It's certainly better than what they had. And they want to go running game without an offensive line, but they want to build this sort of Ravens profile. But with that said, do you think, as an outsider, how would you compare Sam Darnold to Geno Smith? Because that's the big question.
Everyone's saying we're getting a 27-year-old Geno Smith
instead of a 30.
That's the line that's being thrown around.
Younger and cheaper is a really nice PR way of saying worse. It's more aggressive. You know the old thing where like the Seahawks have never played in a normal game? You're not getting closer to normal. There is no part of Sam Darnold that will be normal, and it's going to be fun. Like, I think you have to go for shot plays all the time because he can make any throw to any level of the field. And you're going to have to correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe Geno could too. And Geno was very good at timing. Sam Darnold's very good at timing. Yeah. Like, very good at keeping things in rhythm. I think Geno's probably better at erasing pressure. But I think the problems with that are overrated. The 9 sacks the Vikings took in the playoffs and then they fell to the Rams. I don't know how much of that was on Darnold. And the Vikings played an offense that had him hold the ball forever. I mean, they had 20-yard routes all the time. Like, it was shot play, big deep post, 7-step drop, play action. So he was back there forever. And it wasn't because he was, struggling to read the field. He was waiting for stuff to happen. Yeah. And they would get to him that way, but he would buy a lot of time. He did a great job of, those little pocket movements to, just sidestep a little pressure coming off the guard or just step up a little bit. And now the tackle can win his job or can win his assignment when it's Cam Robinson, who got here 2 days ago. And I think he made the O-line look better than they were.
That's interesting.
Which is that is not what you would hear about Sam Darnold.
Yeah.
I think the O-line struggled more than it looked like, and it's because Sam Darnold papered him over a little bit. That said, obviously, if you're going to run a deep shot offense, you have to protect, but that's not really a Sam Darnold thing. That just sort of comes with the territory. Yeah. So I don't know. It depends on who you're throwing to too, but I don't know. Jackson Smith and Jigba can run a post. Lob it up.
Yeah.
He's good. It's who else is going to be there, which is our next question.
Yeah, I mean, you're without DK now. And Darnold's going from having arguably the best wide receiver in the league to is Smith and Jigba's what, a third year or is he second year?
Third year. 2023 class, same as Addison.
So I mean, he's arguably a top 20 receiver, probably. Can he succeed without a true number one? I mean,
get a speedster. Like, what speedsters are out there? I haven't looked at the wide receiver class at all. But give me somebody that ran a 4.3.
I mean, you got to find a replacement for what Tyler Lockett was, right? Not Tyler Lockett last year, but what Tyler Lockett was. I think that's what you need.
They play action would be big too. Obviously, you can help with that, right? Especially if you want to be like a run game team and you want to run a lot of boots and stuff. Like, he's good at that. He's got kind of a superpower of rolling to his left. Right. He's like really good at that, which is awkward for defenses because they're used to going against right-handed quarterbacks that don't like to roll to their left. So they will tend to overload things away from that, and then you can kind of you can sort of get them out of their comfort zone that way. But it doesn't matter who it is. I mean, there were times when it was Brandon Powell and he would be zipping one into, Jalen Naylor through this really tight window. He's going to define your offense by taking a lot of risks. And you just have to kind of meet that where it is and don't get scared of it. If he throws an interception, don't go run right at it. Let him work it out. And you will suddenly have a 65-yard touchdown that erases the interception entirely.
But
I'm saying that I wouldn't do that if I were there.
Yeah.
But I'm not Mike McDonald, right? Like he's got a different thing. Right. But if I were a team that were acquiring Sam Darnold, I would embrace the insanity entirely.
Yeah.
Definitely a deep threat. Or, like who's the tight end? Is that a solved thing? Or
under contract.
Noah Fant can get
TJ.
But like they can run a dig, right? Like you don't need that guy to only run 5-yard routes. That's the only thing that you can't have out of your tight end, where it's like, oops, it's only Jason Witten and he's 49 years old. Like, and that's a lot of teams that kind of cheap out at tight end and think of him more as like a 6th O-line than a real pass catcher.
Yep.
You just want to be able to run those routes. But I would say pair somebody with Jackson Smith and Jigba. Yeah. I think JSN can be a 1. I think he can be like, a guy you funnel the offense through, and you just need either, like you said, Kevin, like a Tyler Lockett replacement. But I don't think you need to do like, oh, we need our guy that was like DK and our guy that was like Lockett. I think, you got your JSN, and I need another guy that takes the top off of things. Give me somebody that's going to blow stuff up. If that's, I'm pretty sure Hollywood Brown is not on the market, but someone like that. Or whoever that guy would be, maybe in the draft. But obviously, drafting defense, go grab Kenneth Grant out of Michigan or something like that. Nobody's going to be mad at you.
Yeah. So let's actually move to the draft. I mean, eventually you'll start thinking about the NFL draft, and after this free agency craze goes away. But this is one of the things, if you didn't know this, I've repeated this several times and it blows my mind. Since 2012, after drafting Russell Wilson, the Seahawks have only drafted one quarterback. And I don't know who that quarterback's name is, and it was in the 7th round. And it's not important that you know the name, but it's important to know that John Schneider does not draft quarterbacks. So
when you have your quarterback, like when you have Russell Wilson on the roster, there's no reason to take a quarterback. You're not. What are you going to get your long-term guy? You think you're going to get in the 6th round? No, you have your long-term guy.
Yeah, and
go bring in a backup. That's Chase Daniel and move on.
Yeah, so I guess that's my question for you. Given Sam Darnold at the age of 27, should the Seahawks go and draft a quarterback in this class, knowing that this class isn't the same as it was last year, right? With 5 undisputable first rounders.
Yeah.
Different situation here.
Definitely. I would not first round it. And I just think that's more about the class, right? Like when you're in last year and maybe there's a guy falling to the 2nd round, that could be a guy like, okay, sure, right? When Lamar Jackson is there at 32, just do it, even if you have Flacco.
Yeah.
But that guy isn't here. I mean, you got Cam Ward and Shedeur Sanders, I think, are the only 2 like bona fide NFL starters. Don't draft Jackson Dart. Like, don't waste your time. Get a D tackle that you know is good. It's fine. Don't waste your time like with the Louisville dude. Like you don't need to do this. But if it's, day 3, throw one out there, that I think is totally fine.
Yeah. And I think that they need, I'd advocate for it. They only gave Darnold 3 years.
Oh, wow. I found it. Alex Magoo.
Magoo.
Florida International's finest.
Yeah.
What year was that? 2017?
2018.
Yeah.
That's right. I didn't say congratulations to you.
Thank you.
Vikings fan.
I have the iPad right
Oh, don't do that. No. Don't raise him a Vikings fan. No.
I'm raising him a Byron Murphy fan who just signed with the Vikings today. Part of he's part of DBU, and he's wearing the purple.
We're stoked on that. That's what the live show I was just doing was recapping that.
Nice.
They wanted him so bad in Minnesota. Oh my God. They put everything else on hold. And I think they let guys walk that they would have rather had because they were just focusing on Byron Murphy. Like, I think they probably would have wanted to get in on like keeping Cam Bynum in the building. He goes and signs with the Colts, but Murphy was like priority. They got it done. So they're all very happy now.
Always comes back to the Huskies.
Yeah.
Well, Luke, it was great to catch up with you on a random off-season day. You
Kev.
were busy. You came off of a live show to join
Yeah.
us on the Wait for It Seattle podcast. We're blessed to have you here.
Yeah, thank you, Luke.
You know what it
Appreciate
is,
very
man. It
much.
runs
Good to see
deep
you. Yep, yep. And this won't be the last time. We'll have you on again.
for sure.
So take care,
Yeah.
Luke. And do we say Scovite? Is it Go
You
Vikings?
could drop a skull if you want,
Oh,
a little,
yeah,
and then
I
a
can't
little
do
clap.
There you go. Oh, is that how it goes?
Yeah, a little clap.
All right.
We stole it from an Icelandic soccer team. So.
Thanks, Luke.
All right. After that wonderful segment from Luke, we're going to transition to 4 questions now. And our special guest is Kevin Cocabello. Oh, my
go.
God.
Let's
All right.
go.
There's so much news this week, Kev, but we don't want to ignore. I feel like we were out in front, right? We talk about this every week, and we're going to do it again. We had El Ladine on our preview show.
Yeah.
Second team, all Big Ten performer.
Yeah.
The Huskies, we talked last week, the Big Ten tournament. We were, nervously optimistic maybe about
Yeah.
the Huskies. They went out and they beat Minnesota in game 1 of the tournament. They lost to Michigan. They were mostly competitive. Did they do enough to make the tournament? That's question 1.
Yes. Bracketology has them as the last 4 in. They're 43 in the net rank. If they're number 12 in the Big Ten, I'm assuming the Big Ten's the best league in the country. They can compete with they can compete with the best teams. Now, can they beat the best teams? No, but
Right.
that's not the test to get into the tournament. To
Right.
get into the tournament, you need to be above average, and you need to show you can compete, and I think the Huskies did that. Now, what's kind of crazy is their most impressive games are probably games they lost. They lost to USC by 5. USC is the number 6 net ranked team. And
Right.
lost to LSU by 1. And LSU is a top perennial team, 10 in the net rank. So the way the Huskies fit, especially how they finish, and I don't know how much the committee still looks at this, but it is, you do see it, the final 10, just some arbitrary number, but UW went on a run at the end. They won 5 of their final 6. And I do think that this team can compete with pretty much every team.
I think I'm hoping it helps that Michigan, I think they went to the semifinals of the Big Ten tournament. I think Michigan's good. They have a bunch of freshmen and they're young. Spoiler alert, I'm going to pick them to go pretty far in the NCAA bracket.
Yeah.
For the women. What seed do you think the Huskies deserve?
I'm thinking they're in the 9 to 12 range.
Oh, that's not picking
Maybe
a seed.
Do you
Pick
want
a
me to
seed.
pick a seed?
Yeah.
I'm going to give them a 9 seed. I think they're a scary
Wow.
9 seed, which means then they have to go play the 1 seed if they win.
Yeah.
Not good. Not good to be a 9 seed.
Now, bracketology has them as an 11.
11.
Last 4 in.
Yeah.
9 could happen. It's happened before, right? It would depend on how much credit they give to the Big Ten. I love it. I love a 10 seed. 11s are solid too, but if they have to play in the first 4, then they get the
Then they have
extra
to play an
game.
extra game. But
The
those
10
historically-
7s are good, and then you go play a number 2 who's kind of overseeded. Although this year, I think the number 2s are going to be so good that
Yeah.
I'd actually probably I would take an 11 because you play a 6, then you play a 3. You got legitimate chance to maybe make some noise. But the Huskies, I think they deserve to be in. And I think they deserve at least an 11. They have 5 wins in quad 1 and 2.
Yep.
Oregon has 6. Minnesota has 2, who is on the first 4 out, and UW's beat them twice. Nebraska has 6. Illinois has 6. What do we have in common? The Huskies have beaten all 4 of those teams.
There you go.
3 are tournament teams and are going to have higher seeds, and that's fine. But the Huskies deserve to be in, and I think they should be. I'd say a 10, but 11 works. All right, third question for you. Now looking back, now that they're hopefully going to the tournament, who was the most important Husky this year to you?
That's funny because I was reading this question as who's the most important player moving forward.
Oh, interesting.
But I do think it's Al-Ladine.
Okay.
I think the level of scoring and her shot making ability, and to be able to be the person on this team, the focal point on offense, I think that's just she by being that person, she makes everyone around the team better. And I think you juxtapose that with the men's team, who didn't have that person
Mm.
all year. Great Osibor was not the person you could give the ball to at the end. The dude, the alpha is like we talk about basketball a lot, right?
Yep.
So I think she's the most important person.
I'm going to disagree with you.
Yep,
I'm going to say Delia Daniels.
there you go.
I don't disagree with any of your arguments, right?
Yep.
It's just a matter of like what we mean by important and what it does for the team. And I don't think I would have said this even 2 weeks ago. I was I almost want to say Hannah Steins. Like I just have come so far with Hannah Steins and what she does. But every time the Huskies are in trouble because they can't get the handoff to the guard or the action that they run it all through Daniels.
Yep.
And she just goes at the defender or she gets the board, she defends, like she just everything runs through her. And I think it's so cool for her. There was an article recently where she talked about coming home to be able to finish her career, as a Garfield grad here, as a grad student, and just be as important as she is.
Yep.
That's a segue for our next question, our final question. How do they bridge the gap next year to the top half of the Big Ten? So instead of being 12th,
Yeah.
let's get him in the top. I mean, even conservatively, the top 9, which would be the top half.
Yeah. I mean, the baseline is you need to retain everyone that has eligibility, right? You can't lose anybody. And then I'm really interested to see how much of a jump Coppinger makes. I mean,
Yeah.
if you look at if you look at the minutes the past 6 games and the who's playing, I mean, they're really running like a 7 to 8 person rotation, more 7.
Right.
And Coppinger and Brown are the people coming off the bench. And how good can Coppinger be? And I don't know if, I mean, you're bringing in a great freshman class, but I don't know how much they're going to play. I mean, you're transitioning to the Big Ten. I know they're talented, but yeah, I think you got to retain everyone, and then if you don't, it's kind of like the same with the men's team. How you kind of project forward, but like who comes out of the portal?
Yeah.
Like if you land someone that's a legitimate D1 player that can just fit in and play Big Ten ball, you're in the you're probably you can get into that range, assuming you retain everybody.
Yeah,
Right?
I mean, that would be a big shock unless there's some NIL deal out there.
Yeah.
If Sellers or Ladine or Steins or Briggs leaves,
Don't come
right?
back. Yeah.
And those 4, along with, I mean,
Coppinger.
a Coppinger would surprise me. Tegan Brown, maybe like her minutes have gone down, but they seem to all like each other. I'm hoping they all come back as that base. And then to your point, they have to have a transfer big who can do what Daniels did.
Yep.
And I don't even know if they'll find someone who can do exactly what she did, but they need someone with experience who can play that role.
Yep.
Who if they're going to run the same offense where they're running it through the high post, lots of handoffs and ball picks. She's an offensive rebounder, can post every once in a while, 15 feet, sometimes out to 3. And I think they see long term the incoming freshman McDonald's All-American, Bryn McGoy is how you say her name, by the way. I learned in the state tournament this week.
There you go.
So she's at Central Valley. They went undefeated. They won the 3A state championship. I specifically watched her to see she will be good. She will not replicate Daniels as a freshman. She's not ready for that. She's just not that player yet, which is understandable. She's 18 instead of a 23-year-old. So they have to find someone in the transfer portal to make that jump, in my opinion. So
Well, I'll start doing my research.
perfect. Start talking to those agents that you got, Kev.
Yeah.
Do they represent women's basketball players? Because that's what we need. We need to find out who's
Maybe.
coming.
Maybe.
Yeah.
So we'll move. Speaking of women's basketball, we'll move
Perfect.
to Unrivaled next.
All right, we're continuing our tribute to Around the Horn, who probably only Kevin and I have watched, but as it gets canceled on ESPN, we have a special guest, one of our top listeners, Justin. That's what we call you. I'm sure you hear it every week on the podcast. Don't tell us you don't, because then we have to take it back. This is Justin, good friend of mine, who has a special appearance for us today. So Justin is recently, as of last night, like 11 p.m., flew home from seeing Unrivaled live in Florida. So Kevin and I don't think we know anybody else besides you and your wife who have gone to Unrivaled and seen it live. So we wanted to have you on to talk about Unrivaled and also, acknowledge your special place in the Wait for It Seattle podcast lore. So we have 3 questions. It's going to be real quick and short, 3 questions, but you can go with it however you want, Justin. So you sent us a couple texts. What impressed you about the setup of this event, league, whatever you want to call it?
Well, I think first of all, thanks for having me on, guys.
Yeah.
Well, I think there's 2 things, right? Like there's literally like what we got to see, what the game experience was. But when I actually step back and think about what they're doing, what I think is interesting is that they've invented something new. Mm. I mean, I'm a sports fan. You're all sports fans. How many have we actually seen something actually new created? Mm-hmm. It's basketball, but it's different basketball, different rules, different court. So we can talk about that. But I think the first thing to think about is, holy crap, like this is a startup. Like they're reinventing rules. They've taken a off-season league and brought it domestic, and they've changed the ownership concept. So that's probably a really long philosophical conversation. But I think that's an interesting place to think about. To answer your question, I think more directly, like what was my impressions? What was impressive about it? Like the actual play on the court. So it's 3-on-3. It's a smaller court. They weren't effing around. They meant it. They were playing hard. There was a lot of shit talking.
That's interesting.
I've never been to bring it back locally and to think about Seattle sports. Like Brian, I assume you've been to one of these Jamal Crawford SPU gyms. I assume you have been.
I've been. Have
you been, Kevin?
When it was at the Boys and Girls Club on Rainier. So if you you can find my coverage from 2010 when no one went except me. But
were they always called pro-ams? Is that
they were?
No one's rating it.
Yes. Before it wasn't even the Jamal Crawford Pro-Am. It was just the Pro-Am. Okay. And they actually had it at Rainier Beach High School. So I'm giving you this is a long time. And then it turned into something, right?
So the size of this gym we went to, first of all, it's in a sound studio in this really weird corner of Miami. And this place, it's not bigger than a high school gym, but it's full of pros. And I texted you guys, but Asia Wilson walked by us the second night. Derek Fisher was there. Udonis Haslam. Thank you. I'm in a small gym and people are there because they care and the basketball is intense. And so the situation was interesting. And I assume it was one of these high-end pro-ams. We were super lucky to get a ticket. And I felt so to answer your question in a long rambly way, Brian, the environment was super interesting. I assume it will change and evolve. The popularity on this was off the charts. We met a woman in the Seattle airport going down. We could see her sweatshirt.
Oh, interesting.
And she said she had 2 extra tickets that her friends bailed on. She sold those 2 tickets, paid for everything on her whole trip. Tickets were going 10x of list.
Oh, yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's really interesting because I was looking at the TV ratings, and thinking about this and what's the future of it and does it work kind of. And obviously you're a fan of it. You wanted to go, you saw it live, but you were impressed by what you saw. And so the ratings are average 200,000 viewers, which is solid. It's MLS range right now. Obviously the WNBA had some great viewership. I was looking up, I'm is the NHL comparable? They're actually better, but it's off season 3-on-3 basketball. It's not the regular season. Number one. Number two, they already have a contract for 2026 and 27 guaranteed. So to your point, Justin, we know this is happening the next 2 off seasons.
And I'm gonna tell you guys, like the production. I snapped a couple pictures like from the lobby. The
Yeah.
production in this building, it was slick. And I'm here to tell you, I had more fun at this game than I had at a Storm game.
There you
Interesting.
go. There you
Okay.
go. So, watching all the games that you watched, and all the players you watched, who impressed you? Just like off the cuff, like who do you want to write home about?
Yeah.
Just notes to the viewers. You guys didn't tell me what you're going to ask. I thought about this, took some notes.
Oh,
There you
let's
go.
go.
See?
I thought you might ask this. Okay. So the first night I was in row 3. The second night I was in row 2. There's only 8 rows, so don't be that impressed. But I was close, right?
Yeah.
So players that were, I would say, extended my expectations. Rakia Jackson, that rookie at the LA Sparks,
Yeah.
phenomenal. Still raw,
Yeah.
tough as nails, awesome. And a player I don't really like that much, but who blew me away on the court, Skylar Dickens-Smith. She is a dog in that 3-on-3.
Oh, that's interesting.
She's, she's already kind of nasty and awesome. And on a 3-on-3 fast, short court,
Yeah.
wild. Again, I picked a couple of these people to kind of keep it local. Jewel did not look great.
Yeah.
Jewel did not look great. And then I'm going to tell you, Alyssa Thomas just got traded to Phoenix. She almost can't play basketball. It's wild.
Oh, interesting.
She can't get her hands above her head, and she just trucks everyone like a linebacker. So Alyssa Thomas and Jewel look terrible. Rakia Jackson, Skylar. There were a couple other Ray Burrell. A couple of the youngs looked good.
Yeah.
The young people look good. It is a very, very fast situation on that court. You run and you shoot and you don't rebound. A lot of jawing, a lot of talking.
Yeah.
We could hear every single thing the player said on the court.
That's so fun.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
The Skylar Diggins-Smith is interesting because Justin, you and I watched games together, went to games last year, and we both kind of had the same impression. Like, she does some good things here or there. Not a total fan of her game in the 5-on-5 Storm context, but I wonder if she'll have a little new life without Jewel there and really running the show with a young rookie, hopefully next to her. I'm hoping they don't draft a big. Please don't. Please draft Olivia Miles.
Olivia Miles.
I'll take Paige Beckers if she falls. Either one I'm good with.
Yeah.
But yeah. Okay. We have one more question for you. The question I asked, or I said 2026-27, we know it's in, but do you think this is sustainable beyond the next 2 years guaranteed TV contract?
Well, I've read some things, a couple of things. Yeah. So the TV contracts there, they have to have this income stream to make this work.
Yeah.
I mean, what's so interesting is I think this is 8 or 10 weeks. Most of these players are getting paid more in this 8 to 10 weeks than they're getting paid for their whole WNBA season.
Right.
They obviously they love it. You can just tell they're having so much fun. They're not having to travel. So I don't know if it's sustainable. But what I think is really interesting, it kind of goes back to that very first thing I said, is this is an invented league. They're trying to create, this is a startup. Like I'm a tech guy. I think it's so interesting is to think of this as a startup. And apparently the plan is they're going to try to eventually sell, they've named these teams. Like they want Tom Brady to buy the Mist and put it in Vegas or something.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I don't know the answer to this, but I'm going to tell you, like, the fact that this is player owned, and at least at first it seems to be working, and they're getting sponsors and they're getting a TV deal. I think it's at least interesting to fantasize and think about, like, is this a disruptive concept? Could this work?
Yeah.
You see, I don't know if you follow like Sammy Whitcomb on IG. She just won the championship in Australia. She's Australian, so maybe that's fun for her. Most players don't want to go to China or Turkey or Australia. Man, it'd be fun for them to be able to like double up their income. So I kind of hope it turns into something. I like that it's condensed and small. I don't know the economics of it, but I think it'd be interesting if it worked because it's a lot of fun. It's different games, so it's fun to watch.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I have heard that they're trying to sell the franchises or whatever, partition them off to local owners, right? So I don't know if the Roses
and look at these NWSL team sales. Look at these franchise. Like, it seems like there's so much cash being ready to invest in women's sports right now. Like what
Yep.
the Denver NWSL team went for, I don't know, a lot.
Yeah.
100 million or something. I can't remember the number. A
Right.
lot. So it'd be surprising if they couldn't find investors to do this. The players are obviously into it, but ultimately, you guys know this. Like the media has to work. They have
Yep.
to. They have to have the viewers. They have to have a TV deal. That's because at 805 people in that arena, that's the seating capacity that I was just in 2 days ago. That's not
Yeah.
gonna. That's not gonna
Right.
float this. They got to have a
Right.
media deal.
Yep.
So.
Well, maybe we can get the Seattle team going. We have our group of owners right here, 3 people.
Yeah. Absolutely.
I'm just thinking of what I would rather do. All right,
Yeah.
go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I think the other part that the part everyone's talking about is for this to work, Caitlin Clark's got to play. I mean, that's how it is right now. It's working in this capacity, but it takes a huge viewership jump with Caitlin Clark. I don't know if that's sustainable for either the WNBA or Unrivaled long term, but maybe it is. Maybe Caitlin Clark is the player that shifts the thinking enough. I don't know.
So, Brian, it's interesting you said that. On the flight home last night, I was thinking about this a little bit. Like, how will season 2 be a success?
Yeah.
And I think one thing to look at is, will anyone drop out?
Yeah.
Yep.
Will everyone come back?
Right.
So, like, who are the major players that didn't go? Plum actually pulled out the last second, I think, because of her free agency.
Right.
Wilson didn't go. Caitlin didn't go. Well, Asia Wilson and Caitlin make truckloads of money. They don't need the money.
Right.
So I think it'll be if I think you're right. I think if Caitlin for sure, but if they need to keep all the big stars in to keep this floating.
Yeah.
I mean, again, to think back to sports, what was the Seattle XFL team? The Dragons.
Oh yeah.
Dragons.
Remember they did the cup thing where they did
Yeah.
the snakes?
Yeah.
Like we've seen startup leagues just not work. So it was fun to go to sort of the inaugural season. I am curious to see if it can stay.
Well,
The last thing I want to plug is, and Kevin, I don't know if you've done this, but Brian's talked about this on the pod. I am a huge proponent, and this weekend was again this revolve your travel around sports. Do sports-based vacationing.
Yes.
Brian, you did that tour of MLB
Yep.
stadiums. Was it last summer?
I mean, last year was my best example. I took Felix to Minnesota and Milwaukee simply to go to stadiums. We went to 2 baseball stadiums. We did other ones, but that one was truly like, I'm not going there unless I'm going to baseball stadiums.
Yeah. Kevin, you've probably done it with the Huskies, right? You've traveled a lot
yeah.
and seen
Yeah,
big
I've been to
games.
Houston, Atlanta. Yeah.
Oh, all the
I-
big cities.
Yeah.
I just like for anyone listening, like if you want a reason to go somewhere, like I'll tell you, I'd never actually spent time in Miami. We had a great time in Miami and we did some basketball, but we did this trip.
Yeah.
So it's like, I don't know, go to a random soccer game or go to whatever and just have a reason to go. I think it's a cool reason to travel and just wrap a little bit of sports into a trip.
Or a
Kev,
lot.
just for context, this is a guy whose family has gone to back-to-back Women's World Cups in different countries, right? So he's speaking what he does for sure. So
Yeah. Justin, it was a joy to have you. If we're considered a startup, I hope you're our first investor. I hope you
I guess I should start paying for Substack. Huh? I subscribe to the pod, but okay.
yeah,
Fair enough.
perfect.
All
Thank
right,
you guys.
Justin,
Thanks,
Good to see you. Cheers.
All right, we've made it to 2 questions.
All right, down to 2.
Down to 2 about the Kraken.
Yeah,
Brian,
the Kraken, Kev, tried to hide. Well, that's not true. The Kraken tried to steal the headlines of the week, but couldn't.
I mean, so Tanev, when I saw his name, I was like, damn, they got rid of the dude that has the funny profile picture when he smiles.
Yeah, my guy, Brandon Tanev.
So they moved Tanev.
Yep.
They moved Bjorkstan and they moved Yanni Gord.
Yep.
Can you tell us what they got in return and did they get enough?
Yeah, that is the question for sure. So the Kraken got first rounders in 2026 and 27, plus a second rounder this year. So the 25 draft from Toronto for Bjorkstrand and Gord, who are 2 good players that will go to Tampa Bay and will totally help their depth. but they didn't need to be in Seattle anymore, my opinion, right? So the Lightning did not have a first rounder in 2025, so they couldn't give that. So they gave 2 future ones. I think, yeah, the Kraken also got a forward named Michael Esimont. Can't say his last name yet. It's like when they got Capo Caco, and I was like, what is his name? Esimont. Anyway, he's young, so I like that they got a young player back because that's what they need to do is just see if any of these guys stick, right? Like Capo Caco has been better. Shane Wright's been balling. They don't have any stars. That's the thing, right? But to answer your question, the Kraken now have 5 first-round picks and 5 second-round picks in the next 3 drafts. That's incredible, right? So they're loaded up.
Yeah.
They're loaded.
Do you think there's a chance that they trade some of that, right, for some immediate help? It's got to be the question.
Yes. So they will, and this will tell us whether Ron Francis is doing the job or not.
That's my next question for you, though.
Perfect.
Is Mr. Ron Francis, and what's his title? Is he he's the GM?
Yeah.
Is he steering this thing in the right direction?
The trades were the right move. So they got a second rounder for Tanev in 2027. So that's part of that 5 first rounders, 5 second rounders. So they're loaded up. Francis has already said, we're not keeping all of these. We're trading them for players. So that's intriguing. The question on everyone's mind is for who? Like, will Francis
turn into?
Get the right guy, right? Does it turn
Yeah.
into somebody who actually makes a difference here? Not Gord was awesome. Like one of my favorite players. Bjorkstrand had some great moments, including a playoff game winner. Brandon Tanev is a fan favorite, but they're all just like good players / good workers in Tanev's case. Great fourth line guy. We need some difference makers. And so draft can do that for sure, but you have to hit right. And Beniers and Wright are showing us, maybe not. Maybe they're not stars. So they got to do something to turn it around. And Francis will be judged by what he does soon, right? They've said they think they're closer than everyone else. So they have high expectations. I was thinking kind of total rebuild, go young, and they want to get back in the playoffs next year. So I think it's fair then to evaluate Francis and say, if you're not back in the playoffs next year, let's get somebody else to steer this ship. So,
Well, I think maybe they should hire you because we were just talking about the end of the deadline or precipitating the deadline. And you said there's definitely going to be some moves. So
yeah, let's hire Mel White, who we had on the podcast
yes,
once before we hired me.
Yeah.
All right. Shout out to UW Club Women's Hockey. All right. We're joined by Seatown Sports. We're going to call you our own Seatown Sports writer, Patrick Leary, whose recent post was the Mariners aren't changing, an optimistic view of the Mariners. He's also Mariner Muse on Twitter, or one of the Mariner Muses, Mies. I don't know how you say that plurally, Patrick. I should know. We have one question for Patrick for the Mariners, and it is, should we be worried about George Kirby?
Good question. I would say short answer is probably not, but longer answer is maybe. Probably not, just because the injury doesn't seem particularly serious. Based on everything that's been said, he'll probably miss 3 or 4 starts in April as a result of this. And Emerson Hancock wasn't good last year, but they can survive with him for a little less than a month if that's what it ends up being. So, and he's also worked on some changes in the off season, so he could potentially be a little bit better this year, maybe. So I'm not super worried about it. The, little birdie in my ear or devil on my shoulder is like, well, the Mariners are not the most forthcoming or accurate about injuries traditionally, and how they talk about them and their timelines, especially right when they happen.
Yeah, I think about Matt Brash
Right.
last year, right? I mean, Brash's, I think we kind of had an idea it might be more so than this one. At least that's my impression, right? The way they describe Kirby's as the MRI is clean, it's inflammation. He wanted the ball. But Brash's was like, oh, we're gonna throw him out there and see what happens, and then it didn't work, obviously. So
Yeah, Brash, I would say I wasn't surprised when he had to end up
yeah,
having to get Tommy, or he had the brace, not the full Tommy John, but
right.
he had to have that last year. I wasn't surprised. The one I would most liken it to, if you want to have like a
Mm.
potential realistic bad scenario, would be in 2023 when Andres Munoz got hurt in the first week of the season. And then it was like, oh, he's just like shut down. He'll miss like 2 or 3 weeks. And then
Yeah,
it's like, well, he's gonna go out for a rehab stint soon. And it was like, is he going to go out? And he ended
right,
up missing about 2 months. And he was fine towards the end of the year
right.
and came back. But that's what I'm a little bit worried about with the Kirby situation would just be it's just inflammation, they say, so it should be fine. He should probably start throwing a little bit before opening day and be ready to start throwing like a 5 inning start in the majors by the middle of April. But it could be if that timeline just keeps kind of inching back, then that's
Yeah.
like, oh, now we're starting to lose serious chunk of the season where you're inarguably downgrading from Kirby to Hancock. And
Right.
obviously you're kind of relying on Hancock taking a moderate step forward to cover it off either way.
Right. And even, I mean, that's the thing about the way this team's constructed. Even a moderate step forward by Hancock is still, as you said, inarguably and
Yeah.
light years behind a top 10 pitcher in baseball, which is probably where Kirby is now. So that's a
Yeah.
bust for sure.
They could really benefit from somehow rigging it so Hancock only pitches at home.
Mm,
Just because like his problem last year was his stuff was so easy to get hit. He didn't miss enough bats.
yeah.
His velocity and stuff wasn't great. But if he can get a couple of nice chilly April evenings in Seattle to suppress the contact a little bit, that'll
Right.
really cover it off, and you can get him through 6 innings with 2 runs and like a bunch of flyouts, and it'll make you feel better.
Yeah, I have not looked at the schedule to see how many off days and if they could skip him too and things like that. But it'll be funny when he's like the number 2 starter in the rotation simply because they want him to pitch against the A's at home on opening week.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
They just steal that start. Yeah, I'd be interested if they do that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think Kirby's probably fine long term. The stuff about him needing like 5 different people to talk to him to get him to shut down is probably encouraging, and he'll probably be able to be back at some point in April. So not hitting the panic button, and if that's the worst thing that happens to Kirby all year, then
Yeah.
we'll take it.
We'll take it. Or the whole pitching staff will take it.
Yeah, well,
yeah, I don't know if that's
we should
gonna
be
happen.
so lucky, but
Right. All right. Well, Patrick, we're hoping to talk to you as we get closer to the season, if that works for you.
yes, absolutely. Let's
All
go.
right. All right. Go M's.
Go Hens.
All right, here we go. We're going to finish the podcast with a top 5. We had 5 segments, 5 questions. This is like the final segment on Around the Horn where somebody wins and then we turn it over. But as all our listeners know, there's no way I would turn this over to Kevin just by himself. I can't do it. I can't do it, Kev. So we're going to do this together. Okay, our top 5 this week. Geno Smith gets traded. That was shocking.
You were shocked?
I was. I didn't think it was going to happen, right? DK
Yeah.
gets traded. I was less shocked because he demanded a trade, but I still was surprised.
Yeah.
I don't think they fit in the top 5 most shocking trades in Seattle sports history.
Ooh.
And we can kind of define this how we want, because some, even if you know they're coming, they're still shocking.
Yeah.
So I don't think we have to do this in any particular order, but I'm going to let you think of
Let's-
one first.
Yeah, let's come up with 5. Let's see
Let's
if we
come up
can-
with 5.
Yeah,
Okay.
so-
So and okay,
Yeah.
we're probably going to forget like Lenny Wilkins in the 70s or something. We're really focusing on like probably
since
late
the
80s, 90s into today. Okay.
/ how old
So
how
yeah.
old I am. The first thing that comes to mind is I Russell Wilson was a huge deal.
That's the first one I thought
Just
of too.
because he won a Super Bowl with Seattle, he was here for so long. At the end, he was polarizing, but and you still have people that are like, don't wish him well and don't have good feelings about him. But he was a franchise quarterback, and you traded him near the tail end of his prime, right? I think the trade looks good now. I think we can all agree. Like they didn't want to use that money on someone that was not in the top 10. But that was
To your point,
shocking.
Kev, like he was, I would say, still considered top 10 when they traded him.
Yeah.
He went to the Broncos and he quickly fell off. Like
He
the
was
Broncos traded
expected
a
to
ton,
be good.
and bigger than that, they gave him an enormous new contract.
Yeah.
So and to the point of the idea of like shock, when I heard Russell Wilson get traded, I did not believe it at first, which is like I think the definition of right, like no way.
Yeah.
And then you reading through it, you're just like, I remember saying to multiple people that day, I can't believe it.
Yeah.
Not even that I agreed, disagreed. It just
Yeah.
like blew my mind that they
Yeah.
would actually trade Russell Wilson. And then I think the stages of shock trades are
Grief.
first, I can't believe it. Yeah, there's a little grief.
Yeah.
And then there's like intellectualizing / oh, actually, I think this is good for us. Here's what we got back,
Yeah.
versus the what are we doing? I think all Seattle sports fans and all these trades are like, well, maybe the return was great. Even if we slam the GMs,
Yeah.
we still like love the trade
I-
because you have to
yeah.
convince yourself it'll be better. Otherwise, you'll be so sad.
Yeah. So I gave you Russell. What's brewing in your head?
Okay, so the one that I get a couple Mariners ones that come to mind, but I think the first Griffey trade still has to be there. So
Oh, I
Griffey-
cried.
So same, like the grief part was bigger than the shock, even
Yeah.
though there was still shock because he wanted out, right? Like, but I don't think the reporting it, there was no Twitter, there was no, there was not even MySpace at this point, right? So it was rumor that he was disgruntled, but it was kind of the thing where you thought, oh, they'll work it out.
Yeah.
And then he was gone. And for me, being 10 years old in 1989, and I think he got traded in 1999.
I was 7 years old. It was the first time I cried.
Is that right?
over
1999? Right?
No, he
Or
yeah,
2000?
because, no, he didn't play the 2000 season with the Mariners. So
Okay.
they traded him in 99.
So it's about, it's, from 10 to 20 years old. That's my youth, right? And this is the most iconic, best athlete I can imagine. I loved Gary Payton. I really liked some of the Seahawks players, but Ken Griffey Jr. was the coolest dude in baseball. And to that point, when I went to St. Louis, Missouri, and went to a Cubs Cardinals game with my family a few summers back, we went on a little road trip. We sat next to a fan wearing a Griffey shirt, and he's probably about my age, maybe a little younger. And I said, "Oh, are you from Seattle?" Right? He said, "Nope, not even close. I've never been to Seattle."
Yeah.
I was like, "Oh, he had a Griffey shirt." He's like, "Griffey was the coolest athlete when I was growing up. I love Griffey."
Yep.
Right? Like that's
Yeah,
and
he's
so
a
that's
cultural-
Griffey.
Yep.
And then he's just boom, gone from your life.
Yeah.
So I'm with you. Like I feel like in some ways I'm still in mourning, even though he came back. Like
Yeah.
it changed. I felt like it changed my Seattle sports fandom forever.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
of course, in 2 seasons, they have the best regular season of all time.
That did help the mourning process, right? A-Rod, then A-Rod leaves. Ichiro comes. So like you have a superstar those years. And yeah, they won 116 games. The playoffs were so sad. I actually wish I would have appreciated that team more now in retrospect.
Yeah.
Right? Because like, okay, they lost in the playoffs. Like it's really hard to win a World Series.
Yeah.
I was so mad at them for not winning the World Series in 2001 because they
still
won
am.
100.
Yeah.
Like I should have just anyway, I should look back more fondly. All right, Kev, do you have
Yes. You said Gary Payton, and
that's a
that
good
was
one.
a blockbuster. I mean, they traded. This is again on a different level than Ken Griffey Jr., but someone that was the face of the franchise,
Yeah.
right, for a long period of time. And it actually ended up being a great trade. Like
Yeah.
Ray Allen turned out to be great.
Yeah.
Gary Payton didn't even stick with the Bucks, right? Like he went to the Lakers. He hardly, I mean, he did not want
Went
to
to
be
the
in
Heat.
Milwaukee.
He went. Yeah.
Yeah, he wanted, and Ray Allen ended up being a superstar for the Sonics, which is funny because he probably is he in the Hall of Fame? And they don't do this whole thing where you wear jerseys in the
Gary
Hall of
Payton?
Fame. Like, yeah, no, Ray Allen.
Oh, I think Ray Allen's in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, I
Or
think
maybe he's on his
yeah,
way.
he only spent like 4 seasons with Seattle, but they were really good, and it kind of established
So
him
really
as a
only
star.
4 seasons?
I think so. I think
He had
so.
an 18-year career. I feel like it has to be more than that. He is in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
He was inducted a few years ago.
You're leaving me
Four
on
more,
edge.
four more All-Star appearances in Seattle. You might be right. That's
Yeah.
wild.
Yeah,
Weird.
we need to
Okay.
see where he's in our top 100.
Yeah.
Okay, so that gives us 3. Can we think of 2 more?
Well, yeah, I think so. I think it's hard for me not to include Randy Johnson.
Yeah,
So, not the time they acquired Randy Johnson, although we knew nothing about him. They traded Brian. No, they got Brian Holman. They traded Mark Langston, which could be included on this list because Mark Langston was an all-star. You know, I'm a big Langston guy on our
Yeah.
Mariners draft. But when they traded Randy Johnson away, again, he was disgruntled. He wanted out. So it was coming, but they actually traded the best pitcher in baseball, right?
yeah,
And they got Freddie Garcia back. You know, they got John Halama, who was solid. Garcia and Carlos Guillen. Like they got 3 players who played for them and were part of that key 2001 team.
yeah,
But Randy Johnson went to the Diamondbacks, and I mean he's in the Hall of Fame as a Diamondback because
Yeah. yeah.
like that was a big deal when Randy Johnson got traded. So I would put that in there. I think.
Yeah. So I think the last one that I can think of,
Yeah.
is Adam Jones. Traded to
that's
the
a good
Orioles.
one.
Traded to the Orioles for Eric Bedard because Adam Jones was good, and he
That's
was
a really good one.
going to be good. And the Mariners were at a point where they were like, "Well, we're just a pitcher away from the playoffs," or there was
Yeah.
outside pressure to do it.
Yeah.
And they did it, and it failed. And Adam Jones ended up being really good for the Orioles for a good portion of time. Like,
He's like a
kind of
you
flamed
know,
out a
he's
little bit, but 5-time All-Star.
yeah, he's not going to be a Hall of Famer. I don't
Yeah.
think. I think he's barely on the ballot anymore, right? Because he
Yeah.
didn't play long enough. But in Orioles history, he's probably like in their top 15, 20. They have a really storied history, but
Yeah,
he's a beloved Oriole. And he was the next guy. Speaking of Griffey, right? That whole
Yeah.
deal. It was like Adam Jones is coming. Adam Jones is coming. And then Eric Bedard was also such a jerk. He was so cold with media and he was cold with fans and he got hurt that it just sucked.
it was
It just sucked.
It was such a bad one. So
Yeah.
God,
That's good. That's a
Why-
good list, actually. These
yeah.
are depressing a little bit, but it's a
Yeah.
good list.
I hate that
Um,
we have to talk about Eric Bedard.
I think
Sorry,
that,
guys.
I don't know if there's a good Seahawks one. I mean, certainly you can go the flip side of it, right? Like acquiring Jamal Adams is an interesting one.
Yeah,
I think the Max Unger for Jimmy Graham is probably one of the more famous. I don't know if it's shocking though, right? From
Yeah.
the Seahawks perspective, we look back and we're like, that wasn't the best trade
Yeah.
because Max Unger,
Yeah.
it changed the whole dynamic of the team. I don't know if there's a big shocker Seahawks one. Honestly, well, we did Russ, but Gino and DK might be in the top 3.
the crazy thing is, like, this all happened with like one fell swoop. It was just like
It's so fast.
Yeah.
So
it was-
so fast.
I'm so glad I didn't
Um,
buy either of their jerseys.
Oh
Didn't
yeah.
waste my
I have a
money.
Russ jersey.
Yeah, but he's gonna
Um,
go down as one of the greats.
Oh, it'll be a great jersey later on.
Yeah.
Like when he comes back, I think it'll be warm when he comes
Yeah.
back. Not to play, but like when he gets in the Ring of Honor or something
Oh,
like that
yeah.
years from now.
Yeah.
Can I say one thing before we go?
Yes.
Kind of a final salvo. I was thinking about this. So the Kraken we talked about today,
Yeah.
trading away players, right? Seahawks trading away their quarterback and their star receiver. Tyler Lockett leaves.
Yeah.
The Storm traded away Jewel Lloyd this offseason,
Yeah.
right? Like, that's wild.
Yeah.
They also had Breonna Stewart leave a couple of years ago. People are too hard on Jerry DiPoto.
I knew it was coming.
Here's why, Kev. I want you to think about this, and I want our listeners to think about this. I know the cool thing is to slam DiPoto, and even Justin Turner, that was a news story that probably would have been our lead news story in a different week, had this whole interview about Mariners ownership, and he was slamming the owners a lot more than Jerry DiPoto.
I mean,
right?
read it on C-Town Sports. Patrick
Sports.
wrote a whole editorial about
Exactly.
the downfall.
But I want everybody to remember something. Okay. Maybe they haven't signed the guys, but they have traded for Luis Castillo and Randy Arozarena in the last 3 or 4 years.
And can anyone here tell us who they gave up? Like, they didn't give up Julio. They didn't give up their number one
You know, in the Luis Castillo trade, the big chip was Noelve Marte, and he just got sent down by the Reds today.
Yep.
He's not even on the big league roster.
Yep.
Right? So the Mariners, folks, we're a couple weeks away, and they got 2 All-Stars in trades back. While everybody else is shipping away, the Mariners are here, baby. Let's go.
All right. See everyone next week. We're getting closer to the opening day.